Amen. I thank God for being here. I thank God for being ahead of my life. I thank God for this opportunity. I'm not originally from Austin. I'm from Dallas. And I came to Austin in 2003, but I didn't come to Full Gospel until 2007. But I thank God what brought me here was my grandmother raised me, and I was like the only child. And I grew up in Holiness Church. I was saved, filled with the Holy Ghost before, but then I backslid. You know, I was out in the wilderness for about 10 years, and during that time, my grandmother passed. And I couldn't really handle it well because it had always just been me and her, you know. And so she was gone, and I didn't have God in my life, so I was pretty much, you know, I was gradually having a breakdown, you know. I was living in Dallas, and one day at work, I was at work, and I just went in my office and packed a box, and I just left. I just quit the job, walked off, didn't tell anybody. And so the place I was staying, since I didn't have a job, of course, eventually I can't pay my rent anymore, so I got evicted. And it's like none of this stuff was really bothering me. You know, they came and repossessed my car, and I was just spiraling downward, and I couldn't figure out why, you know, because, you know, a lot of times we'll trust in ourselves. I felt like, you know, I'm intelligent enough, or I'm educated, or whatever, but God wasn't in my life, you know. And I thank God because one day my cousin in Killeen just called and said, she asked me how was I doing. You know, she didn't know what was going on, and I just said, you know what, I'm not doing so well. So she came to Dallas and got me and brought me to Killeen, you know, to get back on my feet, if you will. You know, I didn't get saved then, but things kind of, I guess, resumed some kind of semblance of normalcy, you know, but ever since then, I was just like existing. I was not happy, I was not content, and I was, of course, missing my grandmother quite a bit, you know. And then just one day I just felt like, you know what, I don't want to be in Killeen anymore. I was just restless. And I had no intentions of coming to Austin. I just like, I have to get away from Killeen. And so I just got a backpack with a few little clothes in it and got on a Greyhound bus and just got a ticket to Austin and just came here, you know, just by myself. And I didn't have a job, didn't have a place to stay. So for a minute, you know, I lived at the Salvation Army, you know, but it didn't take long for me to get a job. I got a job, got back on my feet or whatever. And of course, I was still not happy. And one day I was riding the bus, and this lady, it turned out to be Christy, she was on the bus and she was witnessing to someone, and I heard her say Full Gospel Holy Temple. And I said, I have to look into that because I grew up in Dallas, just like right down the street from the headquarters church, so I knew what the ministry was. And so I looked it up, I went online and everything, and again, that was in 2003. And it took me 4 years to get here, you know. During that time, God was dealing with me, you know, I was not happy, and I wasn't on drugs or anything like that, and I was going my everyday life, you know. I had the things I wanted, I could buy them or whatever, you know. I had friends, and so I thought, but I just wasn't happy. I would go out and socialize sometimes, and as soon as I come in back to my place, I wouldn't even turn the lights on. I would just go in my room and sit on the bed and cry because I wasn't happy. You know, I knew it was a void in my life. But I thank God how one Sunday morning, I just woke up and said, I'm going to church, you know. And I came and I parked across the street, and I sat out in the car for a long time because I was very nervous because I knew what to expect when I came here, you know. But I thank God for that day. Bishop wasn't here that day. Sister Horne was here, and she laid hands on me and praised the devil out of me. And I thank God for that. I thank God for what he's doing in my life. And I just asked the righteous one to pray for me.